Love, Death, and Robots. I have no idea what this show even is about. Oh, so you haven't seen it, okay. So, I might as well introduce it for everyone, alright? Love, Death, Robots is an adult animated anthology streaming television series, alright? That's how they define themselves. Essentially a bunch of short animated episodes from like all kinds of different animation styles of all kinds of different stories that relate to, in some way, to Love, Death, and Robots. It was created by Tim Miller, but also by David Fincher, and it's supposed to, like, all of these stories were supposed to like have this kind of theme of either love, either death, or either robots, or all of them, or some of the combination of all these, with usually some kind of message beneath. But sometimes it's just like very good visual storytelling. It's just a cool animated TV show. With a bunch of different episodes about anything. Every single episode has a different kind of style, different kind of story, usually also a different animator and different director, different voice actors as well, although some repeat. The thing is with Love, Death, Robots, and why I was so excited to review it, is because it was one of my favorite TV shows, and it was actually the very first review that I have done on this channel. It was of Love, Death, Robots. I did that even before that It Takes Two review, right? And like, I loved season 1. Season 1 was absolutely amazing. But then season 2 came along, and it really like shattered my dreams. It really like disappointed me quite a bit. Most of the TV show, most of the episodes there seemed like kind of pandering. I don't really remember anymore why exactly I was so angry about it, but they were like pandering and shit, and wasn't much story in them, and it felt like not deep at all, barely had any message, like, if I remember correctly. But this third one had received good ratings right away as it came off. It has, yeah, it was, where do I have this? Yeah, it holds a 100. It held a 100% rating from 16 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, with an average rating of 8 out of 10. And the consensus states a concise collection of memorable cybernetic fables. Love, Death, and Robots' third installment is its most well-balanced yet. All right. Then we had another review saying that it's arguably the strongest collection yet as well. And they praised Andrew Webster from The Verge praised the stories and various animation styles used in each short. So overall, a very positive reviews. But then again, I hate a lot of movies that have positive reviews, so I wasn't convinced just yet. And here is where I have to talk a little bit about the structure of this review, okay? Because, as I said, it's 9 different episodes that have all different stories and do not relate to each other in any way, shape, or form, other than they're animated. But they're all animated in a different style, and they have a different story, different everything, okay? So I'm going to talk about each of them separately. And the first one is a reprisal, or rather a sequel to what many people found popular, the episode 3 Robots, right? And this started, I think this was in season 1 already, but in season 2 it was kind of weak, and here they brought it back again, and this is the first episode of the season, right? It's called 3 Robots Exit Strategies, and essentially what the idea is in this season, as well as in the previous season, as well as in the season before, is that the 3 different robots from the future, and this whole thing takes place in the future, right? They have like a little bit of a tour, like a tourist tour of post-apocalyptic Earth. And I just realized that my music is fucking blasting. Let me fix that. They have like a tour of post-apocalyptic Earth. They look at humans and laugh and joke about how they fucked everything up, how their like environment got fucked up because of them, and all of that. And in this particular episode, they were focusing on how humans dealt with the apocalypse. Essentially, their like exit strategies, how to get away from that. And it essentially looked at three different types of people: the middle class, the lower class, and the like top 1% or top 0.1%. How they attempted to get away from that apocalypse. And it was just kind of weak, you know, it really disappointed me. It was a return of a classic. Many people wanted another one. It's somewhat of a staple, I suppose, of Love, Death, Robots. But the more you do them, the more pandering it seems. You know, because yes, you're talking about environmental issues that humans cause to eradicate themselves. It's an interesting way of looking at it. But one is definitely enough. One of these is definitely enough for me. Okay? All of the humor feels like it's the same shit. It feels basic. It feels subpar. And like it's kind of interesting, I guess, in like exploring how the humans in this particular world or in this particular story decided to save themselves and how they fail and all of that. But if you keep driving the same points home over and over and over in the same style with the same characters and with the same humor, it doesn't matter if you have different set pieces and different like themes that you talk about within that particular story. It's still the same fucking story. And if you beat me over the head with it for the third time, I'm going to be disappointed. And I was disappointed. Yeah, overall, I felt that this episode like tried to provide some kind of reflection to human society, like the previous ones did. But already from the second season and this one even more, it felt like it's a like shallow pandering. You know, that's how I would describe it. It's a partly it is because it's a remake, as I described, but partly it's because of all this like classic lip shit political agendas that are shoehorned in. You know, like it felt like pretty meh. You know, it feels like again that it's like the way that the robots talked. It literally reminded me of how the media talked, and it reminded me of the movie Don't Look Up, which is a fucking travesty and still probably my least favorite movie to have ever reviewed on this channel. And you just can't do that when you're making a stylized film or TV show. Also, by the way, reminder for you guys, or not a reminder, but like a point. I didn't turn on the drinks on me for obvious reasons, but just wanted to let you know, that I'm not doing that today. Definitely not drinking. Alcohol, at least. Oh, also, I completely missed it. Or, I mean, I didn't miss it. I noticed it, but I didn't react to it. Akil asked me to hydrate myself, so I will. It's a good idea, Akil. What do you mean? I mean, when you look at this episode, as you can see, you do have, like, very interesting motif in each and every scene, you know, like it's always visually interesting. Like this particular scene was about how the richer people built themselves palaces and cordoned off everything. Or actually, no, this was on a boat, I believe. They built themselves like boats or like repurposed oil rigs to have like luxurious hotels. But then eventually they, of course, ran out of food and decided to eat each other. Yeah, at which point that was the total collapse of even that part of that part of society. This will be interesting. I hope that this will be interesting for you, by the way, Shadow. And feel free to ask any questions or discuss anything. Like, feel free. It's nice to talk about with somebody. But yeah, that was 3 robots exit strategies, and I try to, like, the thing is, going into this season, I try to really get away from my negative feelings towards season 2 and think like, hey, listen, it's a brand new season, maybe they can bring it back. And seeing this as the first episode kind of shocked me a little. Not didn't shock me, but like I was surprised because I did expect to be pleasantly surprised. Like I did expect the hype. So this wasn't a good start. But then came another episode, as it does in Love, Death, and Robots. By the way, these episodes are like 15 minutes or 7 minutes short, you know, so like they're very watchable, very easily watchable. Then came the next episode, which was called Bad Traveling. And this one was pretty amazing. One of my favorites from the whole season. Very cool. I will always read the plot to you guys that haven't seen it. Just so you know, know what is about, what is it about, more or less. Okay, so a ship's crew member sailing an alien ocean strikes a deal with the ravenous monster of the deep. That is like the main plot line. Essentially, there are ships that go around on this ocean, and sometimes there are alien monsters that attack them. And this particular sailor managed to bargain with the monster to that, you know, hey, listen, don't kill our sailors, and we will drop you off at an island. And the monster is like, yeah, fine, that is a good bargain. That is a good bargain, but I need to eat. And this whole episode is about this sailor taking control of the ship, because the ship was like without a captain before, I assume, and essentially calling the shots, asking people whether they want to like drop off the monster on the island where the monster wants to be dropped off, which is full of innocent people, or go a little bit further, risk their lives, and put it on an abandoned island where the monster couldn't kill hundreds of innocent or thousands of innocent people. All of the crew votes that they're gonna drop it off on the earlier island to not risk their lives, and, you know, fuck the people on the island, essentially. And it's this whole thing is essentially a story about like an intrigue about the different psychological elements within like this group of sailors, their attempts to conspire against this self-appointed captain, and this self-appointed captain's bargain with a monster, and kind of like balancing these like different points in the story. It really it really did extremely well in exploring like different psychological whatchamacallit, like different approaches, different views of different people, like whether like they are scared, and like there are always scenes of people just talking with each other, of like you know, somebody being scared by the situation, somebody being determined, and it's always just like 2 or 3 words that they utter out, but it immediately like categorizes them in some way. It immediately builds some kind of idea about their personality. And Love, Death, and Robots was very good with this in season 1, and in season 3 they really brought it back with some amazing with some amazing like setups and exposition of not only the story but all the characters, because it's short form, right? It's something that you need to get across your idea, your characters, and your story fairly fast. And this is one of the episodes that did it extremely well. One of the reasons, by the way, why I'm so intrigued by Love, Death, and Robots is because I myself make short form content in a way. Not here, but like, I mean, not on stream. Stream is very much long form content, but that is kind of more or less my speciality, because I do ads, which always needs to cram the most important information and the most emotion in the shortest possible form, because nobody wants to look at ads. And I also write short stories. I tried to like write novels before, but the idea always like kind of escaped me. I always grew bored of it. So that's the reason why like I think very much in like short form, like ideas and content and art. And Love, Death, and Robots kind of like dropped that particular skill or particular way of making art in season 2, I felt. But here in season 3 they brought it back. And the exposition, which is so often something that I hate about like long movies, that they do like expositional dialogue and shit. They pretty much never did it in season 3. Like only very a small amount of occasions where I noticed it, which is something really incredible when so many classic feature film length movies do exposition through dialogue, which is like the cheapest shit you can do, and then you have this little, you know, short story that does it in like 15, that tells the whole story in like 15 minutes, and there's none of that. And it's very, like, you know, deep stories. There's lots of intrigue, lots of complications. It's very complex. Yeah, I wrote that I'm super intrigued by the story immediately. It already feels like season 1, and the composure of the smart sailor in the face of the terrifying beast as he's making like the bargaining with this monster that you see behind you, as he's bargaining with it, is amazing. And it really gives up the vibes, especially because the artistic form, or like the visual storytelling of Love, Death and Robots is so powerful, you know, in creating the atmosphere and creating the vibe of the different scenes, that you have this guy essentially talking to this monster in this ship's bellies, in this ship's bellow, or I don't know what the fuck it's called, ship's underground, all right? And it genuinely feels like some Goethe style fucking like deal with the devil, you know, because he speaks like so composed, you know, and has this very cool English accent as well, and low voice, and he tries to remain calm even though he's scared beneath it all. Like it's very awesome, very well done, indeed. Overall, it was a beautiful story of one man's dance with death and manipulation of others, along with brief but deep exploration into the minds of others in life and death situations. And as I said, incredible voice acting in this one. I was very, very happy. By the way, Shadow or anybody, if you haven't seen it, like, Love, Death and Robots is the kind of thing that you should check out, because there is literally like no time that you have to dedicate to it. One of the episodes in this season is literally 7 minutes long, and that's including the intro and outro, so it's like 5 minutes. Yeah, so I would recommend checking this out. I will add it to my mental list of stuff I should try to check out sometime in life. Okay, all right, yeah. But that's why I requested it, you know, like I wanted to share this with you guys, because that is, I realized like a couple of years ago that that's, like, at least right now, I don't know, I might develop still in the way I write, but right now it is very much my my art form. The way I express myself is through short form art. But that brings us to the next episode. Let me just check what happened here. Oh, nice, nothing. All right. Okay, yeah. The next episode, The Very Pulse of the Machine. When an exploratory mission to a Jovian moon ends in disaster, the lone survivor must begin a perilous but mind-expanding journey. I put these plots, like these official plot descriptions from the creators of the show, into this review, because I feel like they always bring up the idea behind the story very, very well. It might not talk about the entire plot, but it introduces it quite well. Essentially, 2 astronauts on a moon, or on some kind of a foreign, like, you know, planet, and they crash in an explosion. One of the astronauts dies immediately. The other one takes her body, takes her oxygen, because she's losing oxygen, so she puts the dead person's oxygen into her oxygen and drags her on a piece of debris. She drags her behind her across this planet. And as she goes, she realizes that she has some injuries, so she makes her bodysuit inject some drugs to overcome those injuries and be able to keep going. Some of these drugs, you know, you start with some painkillers, but then you get on to like amphetamine, like meth, essentially, and She just keeps going and keeps tripping until it feels like the planet is kind of talking to her, and there are these like rays of light. Very reminiscent of Love, Death and Robots Season 1. Love, Death and Robots Season 1 Fish Night episode. It was very similar in the visual style, in the way that it was drawn, definitely similar, but also like in the very trippy background of like energies and pulses of light all around that person. So it was very much a visual story, but there was a deeper message behind it as well, because the planet was trying to communicate to this person, this astronaut, that this is that she should become a part of the planet, that she should get rid of her body and let her soul become a part of this planet. So it was a lot about like some kind of meditation about like afterlife. You know, it felt like that, very interestingly. And also, looking at this image, by the way, it reminded me of something. I don't know if you heard about this, right? But there is this particular, let me just do that. There is this like top 100 3D renders from the internet, largest CG challenge. So what happened like a couple of years ago, I don't know if you've seen this, but it went quite viral. There was a competition where a person or some kind of company or whatever, yeah, they challenged 3D artists to create a unique environment from a simple animation. 2,400 renders were closely inspected to determine the greatest 100, and here they are. It was always like some kind of entity walking in this way, like that was it. They only had the ground and only had this movement, like so there was only like lines essentially, and a line here, and that was given to them, and it was always like they made these 3D render artists come up with their own short animations on what's happening there, as you can see. And it just reminded me of this because like the way that some of the shots in the very pulse of the machine in the episode that I was talking about appeared, it really felt to me like it was this viral trend, like this viral competition inspired, at least, you know, like, because there are some here that feel rather similar, like this one, for example, right? It was an astronaut that like pulled some debris exactly like this. They had these lines on their shoulders, and they pulled the debris, except there was a body here. And I'm pretty sure that there was one of those exactly like this somewhere, but I couldn't find it. But yeah, this is kind of like how it felt. Except, like, you know, like there were different shots from different areas, so it wasn't just about that. But I just wanted to, you know, share this with you guys. So yeah. Either way, though, very cool. I think very cool. All right, back to this though. As I said, it felt like a little bit of a like, yes, she was tripping, but at the same time it was made with this ambiguous kind of storytelling, similar to the one that I discussed when we were reviewing the Green Knight, where you weren't sure whether the Green Knight was tripping when he saw all those giants, or whether they were actually real, because there was some like paranormal activity, some kind of like paranormal shit going on even before he started tripping on the mushroom. So here you weren't sure whether it was just the drugs, even though she did take a lot of drugs, or if it was the planet calling to her. Or if you are like me, you can also see it in both ways. That it was perhaps the drugs that visualized the certain energies that were already within her. Like the way I saw it, for example, is that she was slowly accepting death and slowly accepting her energy rising essentially to some kind of receptacle, if you want, going to heaven or whatever. It's kind of like release of energy, this feeling about death, this feeling about afterlife that is within us all, by the way. That's why we have religions. That's why we have different ideas about afterlife and stuff, because we do have something that, like, our energy, our soul, if you will, does believe that we will, like, kind of live on, kind of like transcend in some way. And this feeling of transcendence, I'm not saying that this is real, I'm not pushing any religion on you. I'm just saying that this feeling, we do have this feeling, like, this is well documented. And this feeling of transcendence is perhaps exactly the thing that visualized in her head, and we could see it in this wonderful piece of visual storytelling. Another wonderful episode that is definitely worth watching, by the way. Very cool indeed. The story itself, like, compared to the previous one, compared to, what was it called, Bad Traveling? Yeah. Compared to Bad Traveling, perhaps wasn't as, like, deep in its intrigue of, like, different characters, a little bit more complexity when it comes to the character arcs or whatnot. But it created a very interesting feeling, and it explored a very interesting and important feeling. So it was like, like a completely different perspective. That's what I'm saying about Love, Death, Robots, Like, you have these episodes are so different that they even focus, like, their style of storytelling is completely different as well. Whilst the previous one was a story, a tale, if you will, a fable of a man who made a bargain with devil and won. This one is more just exploration of a feeling about the afterlife and about one's own mortality and death. And once again, I will probably repeat myself on this point quite a bit, but I think it is a point that is worth repeating. The exposition done in this one is again perfect. Like, no narration, no, like, text exposition or anything like that. It just felt like we were right into the story and we understood everything within the first minute. The crash happened within the first 2 or 3 minutes, and the rest of it was just the pure exploration of that feeling of her dragging the body and slowly kind of seeing all these energy beams, and then hearing the voice of Burton, that's the astronaut that she was dragging in her imagination, kind of like being there as the representative of the planet, talking to her, telling her to, like, get rid of her physical body and join the planet forever. Kind of like disintegrate, and like her kind of falling and slowly disintegrating, as you can see in this image. Very reminiscent of Interstellar, by the way. There is a moment in Interstellar. I don't want to spoil anything. There's a moment in Interstellar that is somewhat similar to this, like falling through, like, some kind of space. But this character was also disintegrating during it. Very cool. Then we move on to another episode, and I must say, like, this one, from most of the reviews that I've seen on it, like in my research, most people say that this is their least favorite. It is called Night of the Mini Dead, and it's more of a little fun, kind of funny story than anything else. So it's called Night of the Mini Dead. The official plotline is: the apocalypse is conceived, literally, in a graveyard in this biting zombie satire, which starts with some cheeky cemetery sex and accelerates into a Walking Dead invasion of everywhere, from downtown LA to the Vatican. So this whole story, or this whole episode, Night of the Mini Dead, is shot very similarly to, like, either like these models that you have in, like, big development companies, like when there's, like, development companies that work on, like, big building blocks of part of cities, they always build these little development blocks, right? They have like models of houses and models of little people, and like you look at it. I was very fascinated by them when I was a child, so like it was very near and dear to my heart, this particular thing. So that was kind of the style, also combined with like zombie mobile games that you can see the ad for on like not that much anymore, but like a year ago or 2 years ago, you could see an ad for like a zombie survival fucking mobile game fucking everywhere. It was horrific. And it kind of felt like it was making fun of that, but it's also kind of making fun of the whole zombie, as it said, it's the sire of zombie apocalypse, the whole zombie apocalypse idea, because it is overdone to death. And kind of decision to go with that, I very much like, kind of like taking that tired theme and like remaking it in a completely different way, in this very cheeky, funny way, of just like two people having sex on a graveyard, and then a lightning strikes, the gods are angry, and a zombie apocalypse starts that eventually consumes the entire planet. A very interesting way of just starting it, like immediately from the first fucking 30 seconds, you are making fun of this whole genre, which I liked. This is, by the way, the 7-minute one. It's very, very short and understandable. There's pretty much zero dialogue in this, because they all talk like minions or something. They're like, like that, like that. They're screaming and shit, but like no discernible dialogue except for the president reacting to the zombie apocalypse towards the very end, where we can see the swarms of zombies just piling on everywhere around the world in these particular models. And then at the end, the president of the United States at the White House says, fuck this, and nukes are being fired from everywhere. And there's a extreme zoom out on the entire planet of Earth, and you can see like fucking millions or tens of thousands of nukes all around the planet, just like going up into the atmosphere and falling back down. Very cool, a very cool shot, a very funny ending. And then there's like a complete zoom out on the entire universe, or like not the entire universe, but like Milky Way, our galaxy. And there's just like a little fart on the right, which also kind of talks about how we are completely insignificant in comparison to the entire universe. Like a little bit of a motif there towards the end as well. Very, very good, an ideal way to tackle an already beaten to death theme of a zombie apocalypse. Very cool indeed. It wasn't bloated at all. Everything's over in a flash, and it's all caused by a small error of human depravity. That's also something that I like, because it is making fun of like the bullshitness of a zombie apocalypse actually happening, but at the same time, it is still kind of poking at humans, saying that like the apocalypse will be caused by some kind of depravity, humans doing something stupid. Which, of course, I mean, having sex in a cemetery isn't equating to global warming or anything, but it's a theme, guys. All right, it's a theme. And once again, fast story. Nothing is spoken of. You just understand everything from the visuals. Very cool. Much like I say, very cool. Like it's cool. It's funny. It's not something I would rewatch, like that's the thing. Apart, like, the other episodes I might rewatch, but I will definitely rewatch, like, the bad traveling one, the one with the cool sailors and shit. This one is like a fun little thing that you might stumble upon on YouTube, but and like I'm not mad at it, because that is kind of what Love, Death and Robots does offer as well. There are like breathers, in the middle of those seasons. Like they're just cool little parts of stories, or like cool little episodes that aren't necessarily like really deep or meaningful. There are just stories that want to make you laugh, for example, make you want to entertain you for a couple of minutes. And I feel that's important in a TV show like this, to be honest. Important indeed. Whether I'm very happy, like, I tried to, like, time or, like, find the number of images, for, like, the proper number of images for every episode, so that I don't have to talk about a different episode than I'm currently discussing, that I'm currently showing, essentially. So, like, I picked out, like, just about enough images so that I can stop talking about an episode once a new one appears on screen. I don't know if you noticed that timing, by the way. I just had to congratulate myself a little bit there, you know? I need it today, dude. After yesterday as well. It was fucking pandemonium, let me tell you. What do you think, Shadow? Am I convincing you in checking out some of these episodes sooner rather than later, perhaps? I hope so. Probably not right now, really? Damn. I guess you don't watch stuff that much, but Hey, Salaz, you're welcome, dude. We're having a review, a non-scheduled one, on Love, Death, and Robots. But yeah, welcome, dude. Welcome back to the channel. Anyway, the next one, the next episode is called Kill Team Kill. US Special Forces are trained to neutralize any threat, even a cybernetic killing machine created by the CIA. Their secret weapon, a sense of humor. This one might be my least favorite TV show. I mean, least favorite episode, sorry, Jesus Christ, my brain is misfiring a little bit. My least favorite episode, when we're not counting the 3 robots, and I'm very much not counting them because I feel there's just like some kind of fan service to put that there. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. Just saying hi today. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Silas. I'm doing better. Hence why we're doing the review. But probably no games after this. Okay, so this one tried to be funny a lot. The previous one was kind of funny a little bit, like, and it was kind of cute and funny in that kind of way, you know, like like an interesting satire, but over really quickly, you know. I didn't laugh out loud or anything, but like it's like chuckle material, you know. This one is a bit cringe, I must say. It started off pretty boldly, with a very Love, Death, and Robots style of just opening shot of a guy pissing, and frontal, by the way. So like his penis is on display fully, and he's like making, whipping it around and shit. Like it was really like, yeah, that's Love, Death, and Robots. Now, by the way, season 1 was criticized by some liberals in the United States for having too much nudity there to appease the standard male fantasy or whatever. That classic meme. So season 2 was very much moved away from that, and I like that this one kind of brought it back a little bit, because it's that rawness that makes Love, Death, and Robots popular, in my opinion. What this episode did well was a very good introduction to the characters. Very fast characterizations, once again, very similar to Bad Traveling, through just their stances on different situations where they appear, being able to recognize those in charge, like, you know, through the way that they talk to others, rather than like saying, you know, this guy's my boss, or calling him sergeant straight away. You can recognize those that are more worried about the situation, those that make fun, those that don't really care. Black humor versus like more like jolly kind of humor. Like different kinds of characters that we might kind of attribute to different people in our lives through just a sentence or two, or through body language. It's something that Love, Death, Robots just brought back big time this season, and this episode showed it as well. It was a drawn style of animation. It reminded me a little bit of the werewolf episode in season 1. It was very cool and very like colorful, like beautiful colors that you can see. Like it's kind of like dark in this particular shot, but like if you look at the flames or anything, like it provides a great contrast. Like even though this is supposed to be like a very scary forest, very dark forest, you know, when you see the flames, it just adds that color to it. Like, and if you see like around the flames and everything, it really brings stuff home essentially. It brings up the mood, the lighting, and everything. But yeah, they're essentially battling this bear, and it's a lot about it's more humor than anything, really. You know, like I assume that the message was just humans spelling their own doom and kind of fighting against a pretty much undefeatable monster. Could be again global warming, could be stuff like that, but it isn't really focused on these serious subjects. It's more there just to be there, and it focuses more on humor that it's like super cringe. There is a scene where one of the soldiers is dying, and he's like, you know, Sarge, come closer, tell my wife. And Sarge comes closer. It's super drawn out. He's like dying. He's gurgling blood and shit. And then he's like, "Tell my wife that I fucked her sister." And then the person laughs and dies. I'm like, yeah, this just wasn't funny, and I expected it from a mile away. Just taking an overdrawn cliche and making a shitty joke doesn't add anything to it. I don't know. The humor in this one felt really childish, you know? It felt childish. Which is unfortunate, because like this episode, like the previous ones, had great potential, because there were characters there that I genuinely started to care about just because they were characterized so well, you know? Like I already felt like I knew them because they're very animated. Not only in the literal sense, as you can see over here, but also in the way that they talk, in the way that they communicate. You know, like it's just written so very well in like finding what these people are about. You know. Hope you are feeling better, darling. I am feeling better. Thank you very much. Oh, and a hydrate from Ari. Cheers, and welcome back to the stream. I'm feeling better. I'm not 100% yet, so I probably will end the stream after the review. But yeah, I'm definitely feeling better. So yeah, cheers for asking. I appreciate that. Other than the shitty humor, though, it was a nice little contained story. I felt entertained. I enjoyed the characterizations. The dialogue was written very well. So like. The only issue was that they were focusing on the humor, you know, which was something that I didn't enjoy about it. And it was supposed to be like a humorous episode, like focused on humor, which is unfortunate when you don't find it funny. But like everything else worked well. Like the story was intriguing, the story was kind of interesting. It had themes that it could have expanded upon better, but there was a message there somewhere. It just wasn't expanded upon. Written very well, no shitty expositional dialogue. All the characters made sense to me. Their choices made sense to me. So story-wise, story structure-wise, makes sense. It's just what you want to focus on, you know. It's just that Love, Death, Robots does so many of these like soldier episodes about the military, about soldiers and special missions. I think it's kind of like their bread and butter. It's like their go-to, and they always attempt to make it a little bit different in some way. And in this particular instance, they wanted to make it better different. They wanted to make it different by focusing on something completely different, which was the humor, and it kind of failed. But the next one was called Swarm. The next episode, that is, Swarm. Two human scientists study the secrets of an ancient alien entity, but soon learn the horrible price of survival in a hostile universe. This one... Holy shit, did you hear that? It was like weird noise from the outside, sorry. This one was this one... With this one, we kind of got back on track, I feel. Because we explored some kind of a message about humanity, like very much Love, Death, and Robots style. And we did it in a very spectacular, otherworldly sense. It's about, yeah, two human scientists who are in this like alien kind of place, not even a planet, which is essentially a giant nest comparable to like ant nests or wasp nests, because it's like a eusocial society, a swarm. It's an alien life form that has a queen and that has many different workers that work in order to help the queen survive or thrive or, you know, conquer, whatever, you know. And there are these two human scientists that were given entry to this swarm, like saying that they want to study it. But then they decided, hey, listen, like since these little animals are essentially like biomachines, you know, they're not really, they're barely alive. Let's take some of their DNA and use it for our own purposes to make our own environment better. And one of the scientists is like against it. The other one is, come on, like these aren't, like we won't harm the nest or whatever. And that's the female scientist was against it, because she was there already before this guy. And this guy was like, nah, come on, we won't harm the nest or whatever. So she agrees. After which, you know, there is some kind of interaction between the two. They start kind of, you know, having sex at least. And then the queen discovers of their plan to steal their DNA and takes hold of the woman, puts like tentacles in her brain, and then there is like a final exchange between the queen and this guy, where she tells him that, hey, listen, we are the swarm, we are here to survive, but if you try to steal our shit, we are going to demolish your entire species. Which was an interesting overkill. Even in like in the writing sense, because I felt that already the theme of a human being, this like seeing this amazing way some kind of species operates, way that the human can use to better his own life or their own lives, and immediately goes to exploitation rather than some kind of cooperation or something like that. That very theme felt that was already enough. So like if both of them were, for example, killed, or if the swarm was destroyed or something, it would feel like the story, the theme of the story was already achieved, because everything worked well. Again, we were straight into the story. The dialogue worked, and the character arcs in the different ways the characters looked at the thing that they were doing worked quite well. There was you know, the love involved as well. But then the swarm, the queen, when talking to this guy through the woman that you know, it had its tentacles in her brain, like she told him, like, listen, now you have a choice, either I kill you or you become part of the swarm. And she, you know, told him about like the different species in the swarm, that they used to be like different alien forms as well, and they absorbed them and reduced them to like little bugs and shit that clean their shit or whatever, right? I'm paraphrasing and simplifying, of course. And this doctor, for whatever reason, says, yeah, well, human beings can't be reduced to that. And I was like, how do you know that? Like, are you sure? But he's, you know, he's on this level, so he accepts the queen's challenge and says, okay, I will stay in the swarm, I will work with the swarm or whatever, but I will never become one of these bugs. and that's essentially where we're ending it, which where the episode ended it, which felt to me like strange oversimplification of things. It just not oversimplification, sorry, exact opposite. Sorry, my brain again misfiring. Overcomplicating of things. Like, why not just keep it with the whole exploitation theme, with a whole idea about humans trying to exploit an amazing thing and fuck up the environment again? Why add this challenge into it towards the end? Because that challenge was spoken about in the last like 2 or 3 minutes of the episode, and it felt like it's just some like mumbo jumbo about Swarm competing with the human race and this guy accepting a challenge. Like what are you talking about? Like, what's happening? Why? You know, it just felt like it turned so fast. But otherwise everything worked well. This is the queen, by the way. Very cool art design. Like, that's something that I was going to talk about. Like, apart from this challenge towards the end, which kind of like not ruined the ending, but like made the ending worse than it could have been for me personally. Apart from that, everything was fucking stellar once again. You know, the setup immediately great, writing, the dialogues, along with the premise of the story, the way it was executed, and the art design, as you can see, very interesting, very cool, very worth. But yeah, just a tiny little thing. But it's not like it ruined everything, you know. It's not like season 2 when it just didn't have a leg to stand on. Here, it actually does work. Like, overall, it's just one little tiny thing that I, you know, would leave off. So yeah. Similar to the Kill Team Kill, you know, like, that's a good story as well. Like, the only bad thing that you left, that fucked up the story for me, is that you focused on humor that happened to be kind of cringe. But otherwise, I still really enjoy the story. I kind of miss this music, by the way. If you're new here, the music that we're using is custom made for the stream by Nighttime Static. You can check him out over here. All right. Okay, the next one, Mason's Rats. So, this one was pretty cool. The art style in this one is the one that's a bit less realistic, as you can see from these rats, and later on when you will see Mason. But the story is very interesting, and it has a beautiful ending. Here's the plotline, by the way, I forgot to read it. Welcome to the Ratpocalypse. Farmer Mason knows he has a real pest problem when they start shooting back. Bloody hell. The reason why bloody hell is there is because this takes place in Scotland, presumably because this guy's accent is Scottish. And it's essentially a story about rats that have infested this guy's barn. And since, you know, human beings have been oppressing animals for so long, and they find it increasingly difficult to resist, rats kind of like evolved a bit faster, and they started fashioning crossbows and spears and started fighting back against this farmer that used like a big shotgun against them. And he was like, holy shit, these rats are actually firing crossbows. So he decided to turn to professionals, right? And there is like, so he called like a pest company, and with this pest company came like a Wall Street business guy. Like, that's literally how he was dressed, you know. 5 push-ups, really? Holy shit. Okay, Cotier. I'll do them in a bit. So with this particular this particular pest company was just some Wall Street looking ass businessman who was like, hey, listen, these rats need some crazy tech to go against them. So he first comes up with like turrets that shoot at the rats, but the rats managed to overcome those turrets. So they came up with this particular robot to go against them, and to attack against the rats. So this was already like the third solution to the pest problem, right? First it was just old Mason with the shotgun. Then it was these turrets. The rats managed to overcome them, along with like camera surveillance. The rats managed to get rid of, like destroy the cameras, and then in order to control the pests, the farmer took this particular guy out for a spin. I mean, he bought it, and this was just like a monster that started destroying the rats very, very fast. There were piles of dead rats everywhere. And as Mason goes into the barn one day and sees like the carnage and sees the rats like dying and looking at their families, and there's like a heart-wrenching scene where like one rat is holding another rat back while the third rat is being like shot to pieces by a machine, and they're like crying, and it's like really emotional, and you're like, holy fuck, dude. Because these rats are, of course, evolved. They're more like humans in many ways. So yeah, so once Mason sees this, like sees the carnage, and the rats fighting back valiantly and like half destroying the robot. The robot is still there, ready to kill the rest of the rats that are like lying down injured. There's one lone old rat that is trying to defend against this like brutal force, and then Mason shoots the robot and reconciles with the rats and has some whiskey, some rat whiskey with them. A whiskey that the rats brewed, by the way. Very interesting story, very funny towards the end there as well. And so many, like very clearly, so many different themes that are being communicated here. First of all, you have a pest problem. You first go in with a fucking shotgun, then you go in with fucking automatic turrets, and then you go in with this massive fucking fuck off scorpion robot that flame throws and snips their heads and like mashes all of them, and has like machine guns mounted on its back and everything. So that's obviously like an extreme, like again talking about human instinct. This is like the encompassing theme in this particular season, talking about like human instinct for either exploitation or like some kinds of exploitation, or just human instincts, negative human instincts, as well as positive ones. For example, in the very pulse of the machine. But human instincts overall. That's what this story, or what this TV show likes to talk about overall. And here it's a lot about like overcorrecting issues. So once you have a pest problem and going up with all of these machines against it, it feels like always like an overkill. It feels like the humanity's instinct towards like absolute annihilation of any perceived threat or problem could even relate to things like over-medication, for example, of mental issues. That is a big problem in the West, especially. It could relate to things like or like frequent antibiotics as well, because antibiotics are almost always like for any kind of cold, any kind of flu. It's very often like straight up with antibiotics, which aren't ideal for your system if you overuse them as well. So that kind of thing. Could also just be about new iPhones coming out every year. Just the human need to always have the best model to counter issues that towards the end we realize aren't even issues. Or it could be like human sense, or it could also be about human instincts for annihilation of their own environment. But the good thing about this is that there's this reconciliation towards the end. It feels like, perhaps like, it almost feels like a first positive outlook on humanity in Love, Death and Robots. It's a story where compassion triumphs It's very nice, and it's not like overly like sweet. It's not like kind of like meh in a way that like it would feel a little bit cringe. Like it feels earned, you know. Like there are these two old entities, two old beings. This old rat that's defending his fallen comrades against the robot, and this old guy, this Mason, who sees that, you know, these rats are similar to him, so he kind of connects, and they drink a little bit of whiskey together. It also really reminds me of, not through the themes, but through the style, and also of what Mason looks like. It reminds me of the episode The Dump from season 1, which is an episode where like a scruffy old man, similar in appearance to Mason, has this like dump, and the city wants to evict him, but he has this little pet who is like a dog that materialized from the trash that people throw away. Very interesting. Yeah, remembering season 1 overall is still, in my opinion, better than season 3, but like this one works. This season like really is bringing it back, you know? It really is. Now we have the penultimate one, called In Vaulted Halls Entombed. Perhaps the best name of all of these. Really happy with the name. Very cool indeed. In Vaulted Halls Entombed. Deep in the mountains of Afghanistan, a squad of Special Forces soldiers has the dangerous job of recovering a hostage held by terrorists. But the evil they encounter as they venture deep underground is far more ancient and terrifying. So as I said, these Love, Death, Robots often works with soldiers in their episodes, and this is yet another soldier drama. I really wonder why that particular thing is a recurring theme. You know, we have space, which is kind of understandable. You know, it's like Love, Death, and Robots. It's sci-fi, like makes sense. But why soldiers? Like, you know, that is kind of interesting. That like there's a bunch of soldiers, sometimes even soldiers in space, but a bunch of soldier episodes in every single season. And I don't mind it. I'm just wondering why it's there. The visual style is hyper realistic, which I think works very well to put in contrast this particular episode in Vaulted Halls Entombed and Kill Team Kill, because Kill Team Kill is kind of focused on the cartoonish, crazy ass, cringe humor, and this one is more real and raw. This is more about like the reality. Although the soldiers, you know, still crack jokes a little bit, it's more serious. They are more focused on the task, and the way that they speak to each other, we still feel their characters, but it feels a lot more professional in the way that they talk. Like they really talk. Like I've never been in the military, obviously, when you look at me. Like they talk together as I imagine military people would talk to each other on an operation like this. And it is very important that it's real like this, because it feels like there's much more of an important like theme going on, you know. But like when you look at it at a like in face value, it's very similar, because it's also a group of soldiers that encounter some kind of a monster and they fight against that monster. Very similar, like both that this could apply to both Kill Team Kill and In Vaulted Halls Entombed, except this one is more focused on like preventing this monster from getting away. And here it is. Here is the monster. So as the soldiers make their way deeper into this cave, more of them are picked off by some weird ass spiders that eat their flesh alive. Very cool concept as well. But eventually they move in and see this monster that is being held by this magical cage. And I haven't read the right books apparently, but this I discovered on my research is Cthulhu. Who wrote Cthulhu? I forgot. I know this is very embarrassing. But who thought of him as a very famous H.P. Lovecraft? Sorry, H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah. So a Lovecraftian kind of monster. And when they reach Cthulhu, It is just the sergeant. Yeah, thank you, Gautier. It is just the sergeant and one female soldier that that survive, that reach Cthulhu, and Cthulhu immediately starts manipulating both of them. He releases some kind of very high-pitched noise that makes them go to their feet, sorry, and go to their fucking knees. Jesus Christ! Again, brain misfiring. Need more green tea. And like he looks at them, and they are forced to look at him. And by Cthulhu staring into their eyes, and producing some weird rumbling noise, it's kind of like possessing them somehow. The sergeant goes and tries to like free the monster. The woman tries to stop him. The sergeant then attacks her, and the female soldier has to kill him. And then she is gripped by the monster even more, and looks at Cthulhu. And again, there's this rambling noise, this like really hellish, deep kind of rumbling, and like it doesn't mean anything; it's just rumbling. But then, like as the high pitch noise increases and everything like starts shaking, and it goes deep, closer and closer into the eyes of this female soldier, everything kind of like shifts, stops, and the rumbling kind of clears out, and Cthulhu says, "Release me." And you realize that he was saying this shit all along. He was saying "release me" all along, but you couldn't understand it. But once you hear it, you understand that he's been saying this thing all along. It was just like in this audio white noise, and that was honestly the coolest effect I've ever seen Love, Death and Robots do in audio. So audio design for this one is absolutely fucking exceptional. The story in itself is awesome. I kind of glossed over for what happened there, but like I'm just focusing on the important bits, right? And then you hear the "release me." There's a cut to black. And by the way, Cthulhu showed this woman that he will destroy the planet, that everything, like all the humans, will just disappear, and everybody's dying in fiery pits of hell and shit. And the final shot of this episode is with this female soldier walking away from the cave, mumbling to herself, and we see like the shot from her back, and then the camera moves around, and we see that she has empty eye sockets and a bloody knife in her hand. Not a single word is spoken in the final 6-7 minutes of the episode, but we understand exactly what happened. She had to kill the sergeant because he was going to release Cthulhu upon the world. He was manipulated, and she, being worried that the same fate would befall her and she would be forced to release the apocalyptic monster, she took out her knife and plopped out her eyes in order not to be manipulated, and then somehow escaped the cave. Incredible story, not the least of which, thematically was also that she was called a pussy by her fellow shitty-ass soldier friends, and she very much proved that she was actually the one that saved the planet there towards the end. Absolutely excellent story once again. Very, very cool indeed. Yeah, the audio design was insane. The dialogue in this is also absolutely amazing. There is one of the soldiers is like drops down and starts spraying once he sees all of his friends being demolished by these bugs that would eat them alive. And this female soldier tells him, God is dead, embrace the suck, we gotta move." That's a very cool, quick, kind of soldier thing to say, in my opinion. It was very, very awesome. And once again, there was no need for prolonged exposition. It was like wham bam, you're right into the story, everything is happening. And then we move to my favorite episode in the entirety of Season 3, Love, Death and Robots. The final one, the ultimate one. Definitely one of my favorite episodes of the entirety of Love, Death and Robots, of all the 3 seasons, Jibaro. The whole thing is incredible. This is the official plotline. A death knight and a siren of myth become entwined in a deadly dance, a fatal attraction infused with blood, death, and treasure. Very cool indeed. So what the story is essentially about is that there's like a bunch of soldiers. It's medieval, all right? So immediately, of course, I will love it, right? So there's a bunch of soldiers that have like a meeting with some dudes in a forest. Doesn't matter, okay? What you need to understand is that there's a bunch of knights, and they are by this lake in the forest. And then this siren rises from the lake and shouts at them and starts like dancing. And the way she moves at all times is always in a dance. She never walks, she never runs, she always dances everywhere. Very cool, performative dance, and like it's shot like in a very bright colors, and it always feels like the camera is shaking. It always feels handheld, very raw, very real, and it like this performance and everything. And she starts shouting. There's like big zoom out, and as she starts shouting in this very high-pitched noise, everybody like gets scared, but are forced to dance as well. And they're dancing and running and clambering over each other towards her, which is the middle of the lake. And of course, as they go deeper and deeper, their very heavy armor drops them down. But part of these soldiers is our protagonist, who is deaf, and he is shown to be deaf in a very cool way, because we see like at the beginning we see the entire army moving through the forest, and like everything's clinkering and bang bang, just metal everywhere, all right? And then we move to this guy, and the noise just gets like immediately kind of like shrinks, and it's like muted, you know, we can hear nothing. Then he like everybody stops, but he keeps going, and somebody needs to catch up with him and show him with can't do sign language, obviously. Show him in sign language, hey, we need to stop. You know, no exposition, nobody says a word. Again, no dialogue needed, dialogueless episode, and all in visual storytelling, no exposition needed. Absolutely incredible way of showing he's deaf, and showing that he like they just can't hear, right? Once the entire army runs to the siren, like he doesn't understand what's happening, you know, and the siren looks at him and he looks at her, and he's like kind of scared, so he like starts running away. And the siren is obviously intrigued, like how come like he is able to resist. So she kind of follows him around the forest, and then like dances like around him, and he starts chasing her with his sword out. But then, you know, like he loses her, so he goes to sleep, and he wakes up with her next to him. And they go into this like she's dancing around him. He's kind of smitten by her. He starts kissing him, upon which he sees blood on his lips, and he was completely bloodied because her lips are made of like rubies. So it cuts into his mouth, his lips started bleeding. So you know he's annoyed, obviously, and then he realizes, you know, this woman killed all of my friends. Snaps out of it and headbutts her, and then starts taking away all of her jewels. He's the main character in the episode, so it's cool that we don't hear anything from his perspective. Exactly what I'm talking about as well. It's not only how we introduced the character, but as Gautier is saying, every time we kind of look at the story from his perspective, what he sees, what he feels, when the camera focuses on him, we hear nothing. Everything gets muted, everything, the voice line, the audio gets shrinked. It's all amazing when you focus on the siren. It's a bit, you know, you can hear everything normally. You can hear the metal clanging and everything. But yeah, so we start stealing all of the jewels from her, which we later learn is taken from all of the soldiers that she brought into the lake. And at this point, I really didn't know what to feel, because at one point I was like, this is like this beautiful way of performing and everything. She's just dancing around, and even though she killed all of those men, I was kind of like sympathetic towards her a little bit. And then it was, you know, then he was stealing all of her jewels, and she started bleeding out of all the jewels that he ripped out. Then the entire lake turned to blood. And as he was drinking, the deaf soldier, after getting all of her jewels back and putting it into a bag, he started drinking the blood. But since this was the blood of the siren that he killed, it had some magical properties and it restored his hearing. So suddenly he could hear everything. And the siren then got resurrected, and she was terrified looking at herself without her jewels. She felt really powerless or whatever, but she kind of regained her voice, looked at the Deaf Knight, or the formerly Deaf Knight, if you will, and started screaming slash singing at him, and eventually drawing him closer to her, having him drown in the lake. Incredible story. Very, very cool. 15 minutes as well. Like a 15-minute story like this, like really, really cool. And there's so much in there. There's I don't feel like that it's exploring the advantages of deafness. I believe like that would be perhaps a more shallow way of looking at things. It's more like there's just so much that you can find there. There is the opportunity to look at this as an exploration of toxic relationships, for example, of you could say that the siren represents the people that draw others close to them and then drown them, for example. But then when meeting the chosen one, they even though it's a beautiful moment, they fuck it up as well because of their sharp personality, their toxic nature potentially, and driving them away because of that. And then kind of like everything ending in tragedy. Or it could be a story about somebody or about a person that gives that is like sharp on the outside because they are perhaps like horrified at opening up, and then when they finally open up, they are betrayed by that particular person, and kind of like abused for all the jewels that that they had on them, or she had on them in this particular case. It's right. It's like there's just so much that works so well, and so many that you can find in it. Great audio work once again, and yeah, what a piece of art. Perhaps my favorite episode, as I said, of the entirety of all the seasons. Without uttering a single word, this episode delivered an incredible visual spectacle, heart-rending story in exactly the same style that I like to write. It's like a simple story that is kind of like a little strange, has some like kind of paranormal or like abstract aspects to it that kind of require you to look deeper and ask yourself why that is, why what happened, and because you're asking yourself that, why these abstract things are happening, why it's so weird, why I find it so weird. That's how you are beginning to get your own interpretations of what the story means. That's what art is, in my opinion. When you look deeper into a story, you get to learn what perhaps the artist wanted to say, what they wanted to express to you, their message. Good art shouldn't be taken at face value. It really is something that you need to think about deeper. Like, what does it all mean? And Jibaro is exactly the perfect episode that works visually so stunningly well, but also the story makes you want to think about what it all meant. It makes you want to think about what it all meant, and that's why I love it so much. It's amazing. Very much worth. If you were gonna watch one thing, Shadow, watch Jibaro. Like one episode of Love, Death, Robots. But what did I think of Love, Death, Robots Season 3 overall? I've already kind of like talked about all these things to an extent, but I might as well summarize. It is definitely a much wider selection of animation styles than it was in Season 2. Season 2 felt kind of less exploratory when it comes to different visual styles. To me, at least, it felt like that. It was either cartoon or hyper-realistic, as far as I'm aware. And the other ones were kind of similar to either way. I felt like many of the episode had the heart of Season 1. That's, that's the most important thing for me. the heart, you know, the story, the message that I talked about with Jibaro, that was there, you know. But there weren't quite as many of them, and there was still a couple super cringe ones. There was the 3 robots that reminded me of how season 2 was a total failure in my eyes, and also Kill Team Kill just felt like it's just trying so hard to make me laugh that I'm really not appreciating that anymore. But Kill Team Kill is still like a fun story to watch, you know. It still has a story that is interesting, and still themes that aren't expanded upon like there are in other episodes, but they are still there, you know. But what I have to like absolutely appreciate the most about the episodes in season 3, much like the episodes in season 1, is there is an excellent building of atmosphere in every single one of these. Sound design and lighting are deliberately chosen to provide the exactly the same kind of feeling that you need to understand the story, the underlying story. And also, from a writing perspective, the story is always set up extremely fast, extremely well, with pretty much 0 shitty exposition, dialogue, some narration or text exposition, which, as you guys know, I consider to be a shortcut, and not the good kind of shortcut, the bad kind of shortcut, like kind of just, you know, not trying. And many feature films do it. And this Love, Death and Robots, this short form, 15 minutes a pop show and episodes aren't doing it, which is incredible, which shows the mastery of the good kind of shortcut, you know, the mastery of good kind of short form art, essentially. Yeah. Also incredibly done. Visual storytelling. So, in conclusion, TLDR, they brought it back. In my opinion, season 3 actually brought it back. I don't actually remember a TV show that would fuck up season 2 and then bring back season 3. I don't think I've seen one, but I was still kind of open to this, that it is possible, because Love, Death and Robots is very different from other TV shows, because exactly every single episode is a little bit different. So I did expect that thing, like I did expect that it was possible, and obviously it was, and they did manage it. So yeah, very happy with how everything turned out. But what do you guys think?